Hannibal is a show that captivates the audience. It shows you the grim and dark underbelly of our everyday life. The show is a twisted tango between two people, and they dance while bodies drop and lives are ruined. The screams of the damned, their accompanying music. From this show, arguably the most twisted of the two is the infamous Hannibal Lecter. Charismatic, calculated, a cold-blooded, cannibalistic serial killer. A man described as being the devil himself. But how true are these statements? Many are compared to the devil, but rarely are they truly the fallen angel himself. Let's take a fall ourselves, shall we, and try to pry back the human suit Hannibal wears to reveal the truth underneath. If you watched through an episode of Hannibal, you'd be remiss not to notice the biblical and religious themes present through the show, coursing through the characters and the world. It makes sense. Religion has always been a deep, moral, and philosophical concept, and Hannibal loves to incorporate the ideas of religion and God into his actions and that of those around him. One recurring idea that is presented over and over again in the show is the comparison between Hannibal and the devil. Throughout the show, various characters refer to Hannibal as the devil, and many treat him as such. In the episode Antipasto, Abel Gideon, while being dinner for Hannibal, says, quote, "You really are the devil," end quote. Hannibal replies in a strange way. He states the devil is something that has been an issue or a thorn in humanity's side since they could think and perceive, and that he's been around for a lot less time. This struck me as interesting, because he doesn't refute this claim, simply says that the devil is a concept that has existed for far longer than he has. I feel like he's either lying or there are some half-truths sprinkled in the sentence. One of the people that most often compares Hannibal to the devil is Bedelia. In the last episode, The Wrath of the Lamb, she says, quote, "Who holds the devil, let him hold well. He will hardly be caught a second time," end quote. While talking to Will, who replies that he will not allow Hannibal to be caught a second time. This is yet another instance of him not being called the devil or being compared to a demon. This is him being referenced in a way synonymous to Lucifer, the devil from the Christian faith. There's much religious imagery as well, and many discussions about Dante and his book, The Divine Comedy. In The Divine Comedy, a section is spent depicting Dante's journey through the 9 circles of hell, now famously called Dante's Inferno. The characters love talking about Dante, but Bedelia calls attention to one specific thing as well. In one scene, Bedelia says that she was, quote, "swallowed whole," end quote, by the beast at the mouth of hell. Not only is this a reference to Hannibal obviously being a cannibal, but it is also another reference to him being the devil. It is also interesting to note the names that Hannibal and Bedelia go by in Florence, more specifically, their last names. Fell, a literal word that is used often to describe the rebellion of Lucifer against God. He fell from grace. You get the picture. There is a lot of talk and allusions to Hannibal being the devil. Obviously, this is a metaphor first and largely used because he is the main, quote, evil, unquote, or antagonist character, but there is actually some truth to this. Both Bryan Fuller, the creator, and Mads Mikkelsen, the actor of Hannibal, have stated that Hannibal is meant to be the literal devil. He is meant to be both a personification of the devil and the literal devil. According to Bryan Fuller, Mads Mikkelsen plays Hannibal like he is Lucifer. In an interview, he stated that, quote, "He is as close as you can come to the devil, in the sense that the devil has no reason," end quote, following it up by saying that Hannibal's reactions aren't something of a person, but of the devil. He intentionally plays the character through the lens of the fallen angel, Lucifer. Hannibal is meant to, in the eyes of the actor, be a manifestation of the devil. Bryan Fuller has also said in interviews and online that he believes Hannibal is the devil. Of course, he states that this is his own opinion and that others are up to their own interpretation, but the show's main creator and writer believing this means that we can reasonably see it in the show. Throughout this series, Hannibal is simply on another level. Many times, he does not seem human, but rather otherworldly. He doesn't get caught at all. Until he wants to. Everything that he plans goes accordingly, and when he finally wants to escape, he does so easily. It's like a game with no stakes whatsoever. I think that's where Mads' acting presents itself during these scenes where he acts very cocky and arrogant, knowing almost nothing can affect him. And also whenever Hannibal is talking about humanity and God. Hannibal loves to play at being God. And he also loves to criticize God as well. I believe it is in episode 3, Hannibal responds to Will's statement about how killing felt good by saying, quote, "Killing must feel good to God, too. He does it all the time. And are we not created in his image?" End quote. Oh boy. This is such an interesting line. He talks about being created in his image. The way that he speaks, it's almost as if he were God or knew God on a level that others would not. His comment actually makes more sense if you view this as him being the devil. Lucifer, the fallen angel, was cast from heaven for rebelling against God. He feels that it was unjust. Most people talking about God and his actions view him with benevolence. They see his actions and his commandments as necessities for humanity. Hannibal does not. In the Bible, Lucifer had a problem with humans and how God treated them, giving them free will. And humans are, of course, said to be created in God's image. You could then also argue that angels, especially Lucifer, were created in that same image too. Why does Hannibal kill? Well, he has an issue with the rude. But why the rude particularly? It is because those who are rude often showcase the worst of humanity's attributes and free will. Hannibal despises the rude, and this, I believe, represents the hatred that the devil or Lucifer holds for humanity and the way that they behave, especially when they do not behave in a good manner. The devil had an issue with humans gaining free will and felt that they did not deserve life via God's hands. This is similar to how Hannibal feels that those who are rude do not deserve to live. Hannibal then, of course, being Satan himself, would be resentful of God for casting him from heaven. Again, Hannibal often discusses God's motives and what God feels like doing certain things. Quite literally, a few seconds later in the episode, he says, quote, "God's terrific. He dropped a church roof on 34 of his worshippers last Wednesday night in Texas while they sang a hymn," end quote. Will then asks, "Did God feel good about that?" Hannibal replies, "He felt powerful." That last line about him feeling powerful gets me thinking. Hannibal is thinking not just about this, but also about his own fall. But more importantly, he's also showing us what he thinks of himself. Killing makes God feel powerful. That means that killing makes Hannibal feel powerful as well. He is both giving motives for himself and criticizing God at the same time. Hannibal finds the situation amusing. I believe he thinks it quite funny that humans were killed while worshipping God. He might even see a comparison between what happened to him and what happened here. He's simultaneously praising God and calling him a hypocrite. Hannibal's motives for killing are tied to this. He kills because he believes that rude, bigoted, and ill-tempered people are the problem with humanity, and he wants to get rid of them. So how does this connect with other metaphors, his decisions in canon, and his relationship with Will? Well, let's talk about the stag. I did some research, and in many religions, including Christianity, which its motifs are arguably the most prevalent in this show, stags represent God and his might, at least from what I could find. Stags are also meant to represent opposition to the snake, another symbol of the devil. Why is it then that the representation of Hannibal, at least in Will's mind, is a stag? I think it actually represents the darkening of Will. If stags are meant to represent good, then that means that Will starts off that way and then slowly follows the stag and is affected by it, which to me means that Will is slowly being corrupted. Just like the stag was corrupted due to Hannibal's influence, Will is starting to change and fall deeper and deeper into darkness. The dynamic between Hannibal and Will is also clearly that of one between the devil and the person they're trying to tempt. Hannibal is trying to tempt Will into changing himself and embracing the darkness inside of him. He's trying to get him to fall to sin. Will is Hannibal's realization that humans are actually not that bad. They're complex, and their free will actually makes them relate to him more than he thinks. Will is his weakness, and Hannibal is intrigued by him. If the devil, which is Hannibal, is the snake, then in Hannibal's own words, Will is the mongoose that preys on the snake. Hannibal originally fell because of humans, and at the end of the series, he falls because of humanity again. He fell for Will. Will is meant to represent the Lamb of God. The symbolism is that Hannibal fell for Will, who sacrificed himself to keep the devil away, getting corrupted in the process. We see this again with Dollarhide. The original painting, the Great Red Dragon, represents Satan. How does that tie into this idea? Well, it's not Dollarhide who is meant to be Satan, rather it is Hannibal. We know that Dollarhide idolizes Hannibal. Like Will and many of his other patients, Francis is influenced by what Hannibal says, yet another temptation by the devil to fall to sin. This is also connected to Will coming into his own life, because Francis is also manipulated by Will. There's a connection between Hannibal and Will, which is shared via the tempting and manipulation of Francis. The title of this video is a statement that Jack says while talking to Hannibal about Dollarhide. He says, quote, "He's not the dragon, you are. The devil himself bound in the pit," end quote. In this scene, Hannibal compares Jack to God. And truly, Jack does have many comparisons with the ideals of religion. He is steadfast in his pursuit for justice, but is blind at the same time. He condemns but never looks deeper. But both of them act as God throughout the series. Many of Hannibal's patients, and generally the people in his life, are manipulated by him. His patients and those around him are tempted and influenced by him to do bad things, to commit crimes and murder people. This is the exact indication of the devil's work. Even Jack and Alana end up being manipulated and deceived by him. There's a lot of other religious imagery and symbolism, so let me discuss some of it. To start with, the reference to Bedelia's presentation and Hannibal's name in Italy, and what they could represent. In season 3, Bedelia of course talks about her time in Florence with Hannibal. She talks about how Dante gave a physical space to hell, a solid concept, but that before that, people would say the mouth of hell. Then she says that she was, quote, swallowed by the beast, end quote. I went over this briefly earlier, but I never explained fully why this statement was representative of my point. In the Bible, the devil is also referred to as the beast. Bedelia is yet again referring to herself being used and brought into the mouth of hell by the beast, Hannibal. The name that Hannibal was monikered by in Italy is also the same. Il mostro translates to the monster, which can be interpreted as yet another way to refer to the devil. Then there are the obvious references to lambs in the show, with it being a sacrificial symbol. We see this consistently with Will, who is the most obvious motif of the lamb present. There are many mentions of justice, redemption, retribution, and more in the show. This connects with the religious themes, of course, but it also plays into Hannibal's view of himself as God, as well as how the show depicts him as the devil. He is the one who casts judgment onto people, like his patients, and onto the rude, like a god. And he is the one who issues punishment for sins and misdeeds, like the devil. These two sides of him work together in tandem. I once saw a post saying that Hannibal acts like he's lived the same life hundreds of times, and I agree. He does. He acts like he has been around for a time so long that many have forgotten it. It makes sense why he's so confident, and nothing seems to faze him. Nothing that happens has any consequence for him because it is all his design. The only thing really that he cares about is Will. That's why he tries to get Will to have his becoming and fall with him. He wants Will to be there with him, which is sweet, I think. And not to bring up related trauma for anyone that has ever been a fan of Devilman or Devilman Crybaby, but this really reminds me of Akira and Ryo, and how Ryo is stuck in the same cycle over and over again as a lesson. It could be similar, although perhaps this is all part of Hannibal's plan. I don't think that this is punishment for Hannibal, more that this entire world is entertainment for him. I also wanted to touch on some other interpretations, the Raven Stag and the Wendigo, and discuss some other religions, myths, and cultures. The Wendigo is a demonic entity or evil spirit from the Algonquin people of Canada. It is a winter spirit that is meant to represent greed and gluttony. When humans succumb to greed, like being greedy for money, being cruel to people, or generally evil things, the Wendigo spirit can possess you. During harsh winters, when food is scarce, people commit taboo acts and consume another human, participating in cannibalism. This causes them to be possessed by the spirit of winter, and turns this person into a Wendigo, never to be satisfied and constantly craving forever. I'm not Algonquin or even Indigenous Native American, so I can't speak too much on this, and I don't know too much, but I hope I explained it well enough and did it justice. I apologize if I did not. The show has its own visualization of this, and Wendigos traditionally do not look like the one in the show, but the overall message is the same. Even if Hannibal is not the devil, he could be some manifestation of a Wendigo. If you recall his backstory, he was forced into captivity while hiding by soldiers during an extremely harsh winter during the war. Harsh enough that food became scarce and the soldiers had to resort to cannibalism. They fed Mishka to Hannibal, which might have triggered something. Now, this is not for sure, but I did think that this was an interesting interpretation and had enough concrete evidence to bring it up. Obviously, this is all just speculation. It's just a theory. I love this show with its dark complexities and incredible depth, and I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about for a very long time now. Again, not everything might be correct. I apologize if that's not the case. Please feel free to correct me in the comments. This was actually posted originally on my private Tumblr page, and someone recently reblogged it, and when I saw, I just thought that this theory would make such a good video, and I really wanted to talk about it because it truly is so interesting. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more in-depth videos like this, let me know, and I will definitely see what I can do. If you agree with this theory, then let me know. And if you don't, leave a comment telling me what you think otherwise. As always, remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.